proclamation from the Pleiadian delegate for Earth from the planet Terra in the star region of the Pleiades, to the government of the United States of America on the planet Earth. 2. This proclamation results in cause of a petition of an American civilian by name Lee J. Elders, over our only earthly mediator, Billy, the prophet of the new time. 3. The petition asked for help for the United States of America, for certain fields of development. 4. The Pleiadian Earth delegates are past scrutinized consultation to the home, advising forces ready to be helpful to the government of the United States, and to the nation, in form of necessary advices, but under exclusion of war technical advices, war technical and war strategical assistances, as much as these do in no form serve for true peace and for the performance of the creational and by natural laws conditioned laws and bids. 5. For realization of our taken in consideration assistance must be settled conditions from our side, which are without exception tries and intrigues to fulfill, to observe and to respect by the government of the United States. A contacts to us, the delegates for Earth from the planet Terra in the star region of the Pleiades, our and will be exclusively the function of our mediator Billy, the prophet of the new time. B tries to bring in other contact persons will get revenged with stop of our advices, same at tries of espionage and pursuits for our forces, into which is included our contacting person, too. C tries to bring in our contacting person Billy into scientific and political examinations for analyses etc. would get revenged by the at once stop of our advices. So is also valid while any wanton or evil-minded menace of his life or of the life of his relatives and members of his group. Same is valid at these wild tests for gaining of analyses. Neither our mediator nor his relatives and group members are ever allowed to get subjected to hypnotical, suggestive, alcoholical, druggy or technical examinations. D. Everywhere in the earthly global region the government of the United States of America has to care for the physical and psychical welfare of our contact person, his relatives and group members and to give protection to him sufficiently. E. Pleiadian air and space flight gears and similar apparatuses etc. ought never be menaced in their missions by aggressive actions. F. Determinative orders in true purpose of peace and for education of the art human being in respect to the truth and the spiritual lessons have to get observed, when such are given by us over the way of our mediator, Billy Edward Albert Meier. G. Alone the uppermost representative of government of the United States of America is acceptable for signatures and consultations to our mediating contact person. Representatives arranged below the presidentship cannot obtain acknowledgement. 6. Religions of cultic form, like they are given on the planet Earth, embody positions of might against the art human being, of spiritual and physical slavery by heresies. They but, too, embody the highest possibility of exploitation in each manner. We Pleiadians do not know any cult religions, to which we were devoted or into which we would arrange us, like also would not do most of the human residents of the universe, because cultic religions lead to dissension and desires for might, to murder and killing and war, by what whole nations become eradicated. From smaller cult religions rise large cult religions, splitting themselves past certain time regularly into sects with fanatic and deadly background in physical, psychical and spiritual reach as well. Short time before, the United States have experienced, to where the delusion cult religion leads. Well-known politicians and many other ones have opened all ways for a new cult sect leader with name Jim Jones, to get able to indulge to his delusion under the fanatism of his adherers. The end of it was thousandfold, coerced murder and suicide among the sect members. Found were of the dead ones less than 1/9, as the other murdered or suicided bodies of the sect members are farly diffused over very far regions. But as well sect members became murdered in order of this man Jones during his time of action. Such victims are not few ones, and all got hidden in the ground by their slaughterers, in what cause they cannot get found. Near to 211 human beings have lost their life by suicide, having got ordered hypnotically by the innocent Jim Jones. And still many more than 140 human beings should die now by hand of murderers, as Jim Jones ordered it long before his death. This is the result of the delusion, for which government officers and other politicians of the United States have offered a hand, because they, as 90% of their nation, too, are captured in deadly cultic religion belief, and this way tread under feet the real truth and tear her into dirt. The mass delusion, eventing in the border regions of jungle in the land of Guyana, consists on a very typical American illness of consciousness, namely in a confusion of consciousness. They all were American civilians and members of the innocent Jim Jones Popular Temple. Sponsored in America, they went out into the jungle of Guyana, towards their sure death, sponsored by prominent white politicians. In the mad belief, a God being sith them, who in truth not does exist, they followed the pretentive and sponsored by American politicians wrong prophet, to end their lives 1 year later under shots from murderous weapons and by potassium cyanide in suicide. Never before had occurred anything comparable on the planet Earth, made certain very scrutinized by us. In America but the impossible got possible, as the American government and many of her politicians in their cult delusions say reached their hands for this, as also 90% of the American people, which has fallen to cultic religious forms of belief, like it could already get foreseen about 200 years ago, when the American land got settled by sectarian outsiders from Europe, who had to emigrate from there and then in America slaughtered the native red human races, while they still even boasted themselves of their delusional belief. According to their mad belief, their conscience also admitted to them to rob in the continent of Africa their living human beings of the different black races and to bring them to America as slaves, to maltreat them there badly and to murder them. All these human beings, and their descendants as well up to the present day, got subjected to an industrialization, finding not its equals on the planet Earth in any parallel. From that resulted a wicked splitting of all communities as far as such at all had consisted, being but a rarity. The pretentive communities normally but were in truth nothing more than cultic religious confederations and only and alone in purposes, fundamentally but without true love, which is of importance for a real community. As yet all alone was built up answering the purpose, and still is today, faithful to the cult religion, the fellow creature only to be there to get exploited, nothing real and good thing could rise from it. As now all was constructed on pure cultic religion, a not existing God became glorified for the creator of all thing, until fanatism, from what matter the differentest sects could grow themselves up, as nowhere else on the earth. So in America also no religion wars were done, which would have stopped the continuous spreading sect being and so far would have fastened the motherly religion, that greater sect transgressions would have got prevented, which unavoidable once a day had to lead to mass murders, as is the case since decades continuous progressing, and now by the mad fanatic of Jim Jones and his follower has found a bloody top for the first, although Jim Jones did not believe a single jot of his cultic religious tissue of lies. That one time more shows the cult religion's leaders and sect leaders personally do not believe their heresies, which they urge upon their believers for observance, to bring them by such under their ban. The United States of America were in midst of the religious wars, which would have remoted very many human beings from the delusion of religion and would have made them for truly thinking human beings. But as the American immigrants and the from them risen population mainly consisted and consists in cultic religious fanatics, so the population evidently suffers from missing religious collisions, which necessarily would have led many human beings towards the truth, like in most of the other lands of the world has evented. All right, also in all other lands of earth the cult religions have led to very wicked degenerations and sect being, but they never, besides at the since ever thirsty for power about the world jury, the bloodthirsty jury, were able to take such sizes, as are in America. Namely in these other countries missed for the believers, sectarians and fanatics the necessary, despaired decision, to force their goals by all means, because it was known to them, too many human beings have fallen, by the suffered religious wars, from the cult religions and in cognition of the truth have turned themselves away from each deity, towards the truth, that singly and alone the creation is the origin of all life in universe, but never a god or a god's son, being alone the chimera of Mitterstiar to human beings. Just but the desperate decision of the sectarian American population is very typical for the United States of America and its inhabitants. Their brutal and the huge digression from the real truth of the creation and her laws and bids has led to an overboarding sect being in blind fanatism, and by this, to a limitless readiness without any deliberation, to go until the extremist and the very last, to gain a community's experience. Such is so much expressed in America, like nowhere else on earth. Being so, witnesses in hard reality the case Jones with his adherers and sponsors. A proof which will embody one of the most gruelful for the manic and uncontrollable desire of the Americans for a real community, which in consequence of the cultic religious fanatism belief of the American population never existed in their land and also will not exist, if the American people does not soon set himself free from his delusion belief and his degenerations and finally turns himself towards the truth. 7. By different American persons with influence of the politics Jim Jones could lead his delusion sect to that, what had come up with her. Such events must not repeat, and means have to be initiated to prevent from such occurrences like these. Already further, same like sects exist, which can lead to similar and partly even greater slaughterings, when they get not stopped. It has to be strived by government of the United States for to ligature that sect being, as well as the rise of new sects. This represents the fundamental condition, before an advising help can be given from the Pleiadian forces. Same as in this condition, that the people of the United States of America gets made attentive by all public communication means on the danger of the cult religions and becomes taught of the truth by the spiritual lesson. In first line these truths have to be announced by the TV broadcasting in an proclamation, which will be destined by us. 8. Our this ways given proclamation exists only one time. Should happen that it gets not noticed, and this within a space of time of 7:30. June 1979, then our offer for assistance's lapse is irrevocable, and there would no more be agreed into further tries for contacts in any form. By this, a space of time for the decision is fixed for the nation/population of the United States of America and for the government of the United States of America until the date of 30th June 1979. Would not arrive an attitude from the government of the United States of America in acceptable form until this date, personally signed by the presidentship of the government, then the try for contact will be assumed for null, without the chance for a repeat of the same. 9. For the rightness of this proclamation vouch the for this case delegated Patar, Quetzal and Semyaza, in commanding position of the leadership of the Pleiadian forces on Terra. We are the ones who sign responsible for the right written fixation of our proclamation by our earthly contacting person Billy, for whom we carry bail, each from him offered and noted word according truly to our explanations. Translators note this concludes Figu's original translation of the proclamation, the rest is that of Benjamin Stevens. With the date of the 21st of March, 1979, Billy received a response to the proclamation of the Pleiadians to the government of the United States of America, which was obviously written by Lee Elders and sent to Billy. Whether Lee Elders had passed the proclamation on to the government of the USA, this remained in the dark for Billy. Anyhow, a letter from the USA government was missing, such as was requested by the Pleiadians. In response, the Pleiadians withdrew their proposal and their proclamation and definitively distanced themselves from it and from the USA. See Contact 122 of the 6th of April, 1979. Billy says, and, do you suppose that the American government will deal with these conditions? Patar says this will be their matter alone. Billy says that probably means that you have not yet thought about this further. Patar says that corresponds to the correctness, for everything points to the fact that too many things are not taken seriously enough by the government of this country, but on the other hand, much also points to the fact that the cultic religious fanaticism of the rulers and the population will continue to kick the truth with its feet, which is why we must push for a short-term decision and have to set the given conditions. Billy says, but now, if the government doesn't deal with this, what then? Patar says then all further attempts would be pointless because we would never turn to the United States of America again in this form. Billy says but that would somehow be unfair, for also in America, there are many human beings who know about your existence and strive in all forms to live and to learn according to correctness, in order to be of service thereby to the truth and their evolution, and therefore also to the entire plan of creation. Quetzal says that is of correctness, and these human beings of earth should not have to live in want. Therefore, it is given to them that they follow you and bring a union into being in their country, as it is mentioned in your statutes. Billy says that's fair, I think. Quetzal says that is of correctness, but we should first discuss other things about that when the time and the events require this. Today, we have to discuss more important things than those, which still need no decision. What I have to mention as the first is this: for 2 years now, you have prepared yearly predictions for the arriving events and have disseminated these according to good capability. As you were instructed, you also passed these on to numerous and prominent public publication organs and to various governmental agencies with appropriate notes and citations. Unfortunately, the response to all these efforts was null and void, for not a single success resulted from it, even though your predictions were of the utmost accuracy. The authoritative human beings and rulers didn't let themselves be roused, in order to evoke certain changes. This, even though the predictions were of such accurate precision that not a single point announced in advance was to be found in these, which would not arrive. Nevertheless, it steadfastly remains in the old, and one does not listen to your warnings. Since it is now like that, it was decided by us that in the future, you should no longer strive in this area and should make no more predictions, for they, despite their precise accuracy, are ineffective and are not able to influence or change the materialistic mentality of the human beings of Earth. Useless work should not be done by you, and therefore, you should make no more predictions in the future. Billy says that saves me a great deal of work and time, whereby I can then spend the latter on something else. I have in mind that if everything should be good in the group by the month of March, 1979, then I will finally work out the spiritual teaching course and then try to disseminate this. I am thinking that I will start this from the most minimal, basic knowledge and prepare 4 monthly teaching letters in each case, and these shall be prepared or drawn up in such a way that a home study and a distance study become possible. Semyaza says that is a very good idea, for through that, you can take in very many human beings who find no way to get in direct contact with you. But at the same time, consider that this requires financial resources again, and that you should also finally provide for your family within a good framework and should create some financial security for them. Billy says I have thought of that, which is why I would like to couple the teaching letters with certain conditions and with a fixed price. I was thinking of about 10 Swiss francs per month. Patar says I am glad that you have finally become more reasonable in this regard, but your price mentioned might be too low. Therefore, I would like to determine for you that you have to set the sales price of the teaching courses at 25 Swiss francs per person per month. Billy says that's a bit much, I think. Patar says my view on that runs on other tracks. You live on the earth, which is dominated by materialism. The human being of earth is settled on this materialism and ekes out his existence in accordance with this. And since you necessarily have to live with the human beings of earth, the authorization is also given to you and your family that you can live among these human beings of earth within a good framework. In order to be able to do this, however, you and your family need a certain financial amount, which enables you this framework of living. With the teaching courses per your